So you're a teacher and a farmer,
I am a teacher and a farmer. It's a little crazy.
but you don't teach farming.
No, I don't teach farming. I teach English.
You're an English teacher.
I'm an English teacher.
What does it take to be an English teacher?
Oh gosh, you have to
What is the psyche of an English teacher?
Oh, it's extremely nerdy, like really into words and obscure Shakespearean quotes and yeah.
What level do you teach English at?
High school.
Okay, high school English.
Yeah, I teach AP Lit, AP Lang, creative writing.
And how long have you been doing that? You've been doing that longer than the farming thing.
Yeah,
right?
this is my 15th year
15 years
teaching. Mm-hmm.
So did you do that right out of college then?
Oh heavens, no! I was not mature enough to be a high school teacher when I was 22. So I actually I did a whole bunch of different jobs. I worked as a paralegal. I worked in sales. I worked in marketing. Pretty much any job I could find in Whatcom County that would let me work. Yeah. And then I decided I better pull my stuff together and go back to school and do what I actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
Be a grown-up.
Be a grown-up. And that's when you became a teacher.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So when did the farming thing come about?
Well, so Sean and I got married, and we lived in town. And
town being which town?
Bellingham.
Bellingham, okay.
Sorry. And he hated it. He wanted a place. He wanted property. He was kind of a county boy. So he was like, we got to get out of here. And so 6 months after we got married, I was student teaching, and he was like, we're moving right now. And I was like, this is great timing. Okay. And, but it turned out it worked out fine. We found this place and moved out here. And then he was like, okay, now we need to do something to make money with this land. So I was like, okay, now what great idea are you concocting, right? And so we just kind of were talking to people, what should we do with 5 acres? 3 of it was farmable or usable. It was just pasture. Mm-hmm. And we talked to actually a colleague of mine at Linden High School, John Clark, and who you probably know in the berry farming world. Yeah. And John said, if I were your age, I'd plant blueberries. And so we kind of said, okay, I guess that could be a good idea, and started the process of researching how to become a farmer.
So what did your age have to do with it? Why did your age determine that blueberries was a good fit?
I actually, now that you ask that, I don't know. I guess because they take 10 years before you're going to see much profit out of them, probably.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah, it is a long time. And also, I guess he also said you can do a lot of the work on blueberries yourself. So without having to hire huge crews. Right. And so those were kind of the reasons, I think.
So I guess, if you're older, maybe you wouldn't be up to all the physical work.
Right.
That it would take. Mm-hmm. So, crazy. You guys decide to just go for it? Like, how many acres did you put in?
We put in 2,800 plants, so it's just under 3 acres.
Okay.
So.
And what was that like at that time? Is that all you have now still?
That's all we have now. Same.
So you went full boat right away.
Full boat right away. Uh-huh. We planted, so the way that worked is we ordered the plants. I guess we did a whole bunch of land work before that, but, we did all the kind of field work. We did put in irrigation. So Sean learned how to do all of the irrigation and how to install all that. And then we got the plants. And then we called all of our friends and family and said, if you want to come help us plant blueberries, we'll pay you in beer and chili. That's pretty much all we had could offer for payment. And we did. That's what we did. A couple of Saturdays in October, and then the following spring, a couple of Saturdays. So got it all done.
That's not that unusual for farming payment,
Probably not.
Get stuff done.
Get
for
stuff
a
done
case
for
of beer, or a big job might be a couple of cases of beer.
A couple of cases of beer, a couple of bottles. Yeah, we've learned that currency well in the last few years.
So you're going for it. That's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And it's not cheap either to put that all in.
Right.
And then you just have to wait for several years before you really start getting any of that
Correct.
back?
Yes.
Was there a point where you're like, what are we doing here?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like pretty much that entire 10 years until we started seeing any profit come in.
Yeah.
It worked out because about 3 years after we planted the berries, babies started happening. So there was a period there, as you know, those first 5 years of children are kind of a blur, kind of blocked out. So it was probably really fortuitous timing, actually, that things happened. So
then you could be busy raising kids and doing that crazy, like you said, toddler life and stuff.
And running a farm in the summer.
But kind of letting those blueberries grow, because early on you wouldn't have had...
Exactly.
Because they start producing early, but earlier than 10 years, but there's not a lot.
We started
on the
small harvest, doing a little U-pick, 4 seasons in maybe. And before that, we stripped blossoms and didn't let them produce. But it wasn't much. I mean, there's not much tonnage, right? So it was...
So you would actually go and pick the blossoms off?
Yeah, I did.
So
For 2 seasons, I stripped blossoms.
Why? What does that do?
Well, it puts the energy into the roots and into the plant rather than in producing fruit. Because when that blueberry is producing fruit, it doesn't do anything else except make fruit. So we wanted them to get real established. So that was the concept, and that's what our agronomist told us to do. So we did what he said. Don't ask questions, just okay, we'll do that.
So then once you started producing fruit and selling it, how did that work as you ramped up? Like you do U-pick, right?
We do U-pick, and we started as a U-pick, and U-pick and we pick. And then those first few seasons, we started the farm, we started selling to the public. We were no spray. So we were actually organic practices. But we didn't think we could certify organic. So we just were kind of doing the no spray show. And it was hard to find. I mean, growing a business, starting a farm way out here in Everson it takes a while to get established, especially when all of East County is blueberries.
Right.
So that was quite a process to try to find our clientele. But slowly but surely, we kind of social media and people coming out here and trying to make it really super family friendly, very clean, all of that. You know, we were really trying to market an event or that sort of thing.
Destination.
This is a destination. Come here and bring your picnic lunch and hang out by the creek with your kids after you pick. And that really, people really appreciated that. People liked that.
So you pick, obviously people come, they pick it themselves and they take it home. The stuff that you guys would pick, the we pick stuff.
Correct.
What did you do with that?
So
how do you sell that?
When we first started, we had a lot more fruit than we had customers. So that was the challenge, is how do we unload our fruit? And we did a variety of different things. We sold some wholesale. So we sold, through produce stands, grocery stores, that sort of thing. And that was pretty much it. And then everything else we sold off the place as we pick. People would order large orders. We'd pick it for them. They'd come pick it up. So that's kind of how we started. Just a smattering of different outlets for our products.
So it's different now?
It's different now. So, 5 years ago, we certified organic. And
you were saying that you didn't think that
we didn't think we could.
Why?
We are right next door to a conventional blueberry farm, and we were told by several people, "Oh, you're way too close. They'd never approve your certification." Then, as our customer base started growing, and the customers really wanted organic fruit, and we're getting a lot of questions about our practices. And I just did some research, and I called the WSDA and kind of told them our situation and said, I probably can't certify, right? And they're like, no, absolutely, you could certify. Do the paperwork and we'll inspect you and we'll go from there.
WSDA, the Washington State Department of Ag. And so they're the ones, if you're farming in Washington, actually give you kind of the stamp of approval you are organic?
Yes, there's several different organizations you can go through. I don't know them off the top of my head because I don't use them, but yeah, several ways you can get organic approval.
And then once you did that have to change a lot on the farm to kind of?
It added a lot of paperwork. But as far as farming practices, it changed nothing because we were already doing most of the things that they want you to do for organic certification. It really became just a paperwork show. So that's my part of the farming. Yeah. Sean does the real work, and I do the paperwork. So it's documentation mostly.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, everybody talks about paperwork, but what is it actually? It's like proving that you did all the right things?
Yep, that's it. It's proving that you did what you said you did. So, for example, we use an organic fertilizer. They want the invoice, and they also want the delivery ticket, and then they want to see on your calendar when you applied it, the day and the application rates and that sort of thing. So it's you got to keep things. You can't farm and keep all your paperwork in a shoebox and bring it to your accountant once a year. You got to be on it. So
how do you, and then you have to give that to the state?
That was really interesting this year in a pandemic when I got to give them all my paperwork electronically. So that was
scan it and send
it.
PDF after PDF.
Hours and hours of email. Click send.
So is that like once a year or like every month or
once a year? Yep, we're inspected once a year. You pay an inspection fee. They come out and they walk around your property and see if you got anything shady looking to them. And some years they test your fruit, make sure that it doesn't come back hot, is what they call it. So that would be if our neighbors decided to overspray or something. And other than that, it's just a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
So. And
it's become much more of a you pick kind of thing that you do.
Oh yeah. So the year after we certified organic, that year, the next season, our sales doubled.
Wow.
So yeah. And then from there on out, and then the following year, I got rid of all my wholesale accounts because I didn't need them anymore. So it's everything we sell, every berry that's picked here is sold off the farm. Either you pick or we pick.
What did people say was the reason for that? Like, why did they like it so much that you were organic? Because I know that people have everybody has different motivations for wanting to buy organic.
Most of our customers said, and we as a family kind of agreed with this sentiment that they didn't want a lot of chemicals and a lot of extra stuff on their fruit. And certified organic, we spray nothing on the fruit. We haven't had to. There's been nothing that we had to worry about like that. But so people want stuff that's pesticide and herbicide free. And I think in our case, people also want something local. And, they would rather buy local organic berries than go to Costco or big box Fred Meyer's and buy organic berries there. I think that's really, it's mostly that.
So everything you guys produce, that your plants produce, you guys sell right here.
Correct.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It's kind of bonkers. That's not what we expected. I mean, and that's not how it started. It was so hard to get customers and sales. And now I mean, in the summer in the U-Pick, I don't have a place for people to park. Like people have to circle around and wait for somebody to leave so that they can park and come pick.
They love it.
They love it. Yeah. Yeah.
What do people say when they come out here to the farm and pick fruit and bring their family and all that stuff?
Oh gosh, usually they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky that you live here and you have all of this," and I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, we're super blessed." Until about 3-4 weeks into the season, and then I'm like, you want to come take over for a couple? I'll go live at your house in Fairhaven for a little while, and you can run this show.
So is that where a lot of people come from then to pick fruit here?
Yeah,
is Bellingham?
I would say 90% of our customers are coming out of Bellingham, Southside. We do have quite a few customers out of Seattle. I've got people who come every Saturday and pick berries out here, bring all their friends.
How long is your season, and when is it? Like,
we're usually 5-6 week season. We start generally first 2 weeks in July, and then finish sometime third week of August, typically. There's been some weird years in the past. It seems like it's getting warmer and warmer, earlier and earlier. Yeah. So we've had a couple of early seasons. We started 2-3 years ago. We started June 26th, wow. And we were done July 30th. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, that was really bizarre.
So what happens when you're done with harvest? What do you do with the plants?
Not a lot. So when we're done with harvest, we're done with U-pick. We generally will strip pick if there's anything left, because there's a little bit of fruit left. U-pickers don't pick everything.
So you just don't want to leave.
We don't want to leave it.
Old fruit out there.
No, we don't want to leave old fruit out there. It attracts bugs and it's stinky, and we just don't want that. So we will harvest everything that's still on the plant, and then now we use that in the distillery. So we end up being able to use all of even our not so awesome fruit that way.
Right. And then do you have to prune or trellis them, or
we do prune. You prune in when they're dormant. So typically January, February. Usually the Super Bowl is kind of, oh shoot, we haven't pruned yet. We got to get on that. And we hire a crew to come in and prune for us. The professionals are so much better than we are. Sean and I have pruned our first couple of years and nearly were divorced over it. So we decided we just hire somebody who's good at it.
I had a friend of mine ask me the other day about pruning blueberries, and I grew up around raspberries, not really blueberries so much. So I didn't even know what do you cut off? What do you leave? How do you?
Oh gosh, it's been a long time since I did it. I would be terrible at it if I were to try to do it now, but you're generally trying to open up the plant a little bit to get some light and stuff inside the plant. And I want to say that, gosh, I don't know if I want to say too much. Somebody might be listening who's an expert and be like, she's kind of dumb. But generally taking off, when the pruners come, they take off, a lot of times they'll take off one of the big canes at the bottom and kind of force that growth into new canes. So I think that's the basic concept, is get rid of some of the old and let some of the new vigorous growth take care of it.
And then basically they just sit until they start to bloom?
Yeah, we always say that's our favorite time to farm, is between the end of harvest and the spring, when you have to start getting out there and getting busy again. But
yeah, what do you do in the spring, or all the stuff before the fruit's actually ready?
So, you fertilize. We'll fertilize a couple times. We'll after they prune in the winter, we spray copper, and that's a natural kind of fungicide, and keeps bacterial disease from setting in. So we do that as a preventative. And then
I know there's some of that in raspberries too.
There is.
So
I think
rings a bell.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Using copper.
Yeah, I use copper. And then when it gets closer to springtime, we start to treat for mummyberry, which is a big scary blueberry disease. It's a fungus. And we treat it mechanically, which is one of the ways you can treat it in organic farming. And so we actually go up every single row at the corner of the edge of the weed barrier, and we weed eat along every single edge of the weed barrier, and then that kills or that destroys the little fungus that are growing. It's like a little tiny mushroom that grows, and you got about a week window on mummyberry, so it's a little weird. We start going out inspecting for that.
So you actually see it growing, and then you have to go knock it out.
Yeah.
So it's like a fungus that's in the soil, but then will end up in the berries?
Yes. So in the spring, this little fungus, it's an infected berry, rolls down the tarp, or gets stuck there in the grass beneath the plant. And in the spring, it sprouts a tiny mushroom. They're not even a half-inch tall.
Wow.
And then you've got about a week, and that mushroom will bloom, or whatever it is. I don't know what you call it when a fungus lets loose its spores.
Right.
But so it releases spores, and it will infect both the leaves. It infects the leaves first, and then from the leaves it infects the buds, and then that's how the fruit gets infected with it. So
it's not like the fruit gets infected once it's ripe and turns moldy. It's
been infected
from the
get-go. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
And it's kind of scary, because you could lose an entire crop if you don't take care of it. So we're on that one.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see a pretty significant motivation
Yeah.
behind
Yeah,
that one.
for sure.
If it's your whole crop,
Yes.
kind of riding on that.
Yeah. So so that's what we do in the spring, and then once it's mowing season, Sean mows for about 8 hours a week out in the field, and
Like the grass between the rows.
the grass between the rows and the headlands.
Why does that need to be mowed?
So it looks nice, mostly.
Yeah.
A lot of it's aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then also, if you let it get too tall, the weeds grow, and then that causes more weeds, and it's just a pain. So he just keeps it. He mows weekly.
I also wonder about bugs too, because if you've got huge bushy
Sure.
grass and weeds, like
It's a bug habitat.
Yeah.
You know, try to
More
reduce
bugs.
those.
yeah, go live elsewhere, you bugs.
Yes, get out of here.
And so that's the whole cycle, and then it's time for harvest.
Yeah, and then you just get tuned up for harvest and go.
So you mentioned the distillery and that being kind of an outlet for some of your kind of juice berries, which
Sure.
I think people who know fruit markets, it's
Know
like
that's a thing.
The juice stuff is the berries that maybe got a little bit overripe, a little bit mushy or whatever. They aren't great to like pick and take home, but they
Yep.
make awesome sweet juice.
Yep.
So then if we're going to talk about the distillery, we've got to roll back a little bit.
That's
When
right.
did that idea come up? How did that get
Well, so the distillery really did become because of the farm. Like it really was what inspired the distillery. And it back in those years when I couldn't get rid of my fruit and I'm selling, hundreds of pounds to CSA or to a grocery store, and I'm packaging and throwing away tons of fruit. I was composting hundreds of pounds of berries that I couldn't sell. And I'm like, oh man, there gotta be something we could do with that. And at the same time, Sean, his background is in heavy equipment mechanicking. He's been wrenching since he was 18. Actually, probably since he was about 12, but officially.
Yeah.
And he was working at Clark's as their mechanic, and so
For John Clark,
the farmer.
that
Yes,
you were
I
talking
know
about
things all
before.
come full circle here, right? And he'd been working for John, and he'd been working mechanicking all his life, and he was honestly getting kind of tired of it. He's like, I need a change. And
if we're gonna, sorry to jump in here. No. But if we're gonna mention John Clark, he's also a Linden school teacher.
he also is, he taught with
Back
me at
in the
Linden.
day.
Yes, absolutely.
He's retired from teaching now.
He is
right?
retired from
Yeah.
teaching. Yep. Yeah. Probably trying to retire from farming as well.
You're just trying to carry on his thing.
I'm carrying on
being
John's
a
legacy, I suppose.
Teacher and a berry farmer.
There's actually a few of us. Lad Shumway is also
Yeah.
a teacher and a berry farmer. So we're all a little crazy, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh-huh.
But I wasn't going to say that out loud.
Well, anybody who's met us would probably agree. So
Anyway, so Sean was getting sick of doing the whole
yeah.
mechanicking thing. Wanted
Right.
to
do something different, but he always said, he's like, well, I never went to college, so I don't feel like I have any options. And it's kind of a blue collar thing. So anyway, so he was kind of looking for something. We were trying to think of something to do with the berries. In the meantime, my dad, who is kind of a winemaker, he dabbles in making his own wine, had somehow wanted to do something with a batch of bad wine he had, and he'd found someone to distill it for him. And so he was like, Sean, you want to come check it out with me? And so he and Sean went, I don't know where, some place probably pretty sketchy, and checked out this little distillery thing, and little kind of a moonshine operation it sounded like.
Because it used to not be legal in the state to distill, right?
Right. Well, it's been legal for a while, but craft distillers like we have only been since 2006, maybe.
Okay.
06, 08. I can't remember. They changed the law. That's also when they took the state liquor stores away and then went into grocery.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, so Sean had gone and he'd seen this operation of distillation, and he was like, that's all there is to it.
I could do this.
And that's it. He's like, I think I could do that. So he got online and bought a still and started messing around with it. And then it was really just kind of a hobby. Like, could I do this? And
Right.
He made a lot of not very good booze that killed a lot of blackberries. It was the best use for that early stuff he was making.
Yeah.
But then the more he kind of did it, he was like, this is kind of cool. And he started researching it. And then he said, if we could do this at our house, if we could do this at the farm, I want to do it. Let's do it. So we started the process. That would have been, we opened in 2017. We started the process in probably 2012.
Wow. So 5 years
Five
of
years.
working at it.
Yeah. And it took us a full 3 years to do the paperwork for the county. So
For the building, or like what was the
challenge
there?
County just didn't want us to do it. The chief building inspector, when we went and sat down with him, he laughed at us and he said, do you have $1 million? I don't see how you're going to do this without $1 million. And we said,
Why did you need
no,
$1 million for it?
I don't know. That's what he said. And we're like, no, we're going to try to do it on the cheap, and we're going to build all the stuff ourselves. And we had this plan, and he was like, well, I don't know the codes for that. So
because there
weren't any others
distillery.
in the county. Yeah. He doesn't know the codes for a distillery. And
it's just another like food processing facility though, right? And
a little bit more to it than that. But yeah, I mean, virtually, he basically said, I don't know the codes and I don't really want to learn them. So I'm going to take the most restrictive codes. So we're going to treat your operation like a fuel refinery. And that's the codes that I'm going to apply to your operation.
A fuel refinery? Because you're like heating stuff and getting alcohol out of it.
Because alcohol vapor can be explosive, it is flammable. It can be, but it was
crazy.
It was really crazy.
So are you still operating under those rules, or did you get past it? You get something figured out?
We did get something figured out. So two things happened. One, I learned the fire codes and then went back and emailed him and said, no, actually this code would apply because of this, and this code would apply because of that. And then at the same time, the fire marshal, because he's another one who you have to get approval from. He knew about our case because we've been in there so many times. And he came into the building inspector and said, these guys are fine, in my opinion. So would you let them keep going? You know, like, and that's a big deal to get through the fire department part of things. And then we also met a consultant, an HVAC consultant, who was in there and just overheard. He'd been in there like and saw Sean so many times. He's like, what are you trying to do? And so Sean told him the story, and he's like, I want to help you. Let me help you. I'll start going to your meetings with you.
Really?
Yep.
Just out of the goodness of his heart?
Out of the goodness of his heart. Yep. He was like, I'm really fascinated by this. I just want to learn about what you're doing. And because we're the second distillery in the county. Bellwood opened, and then we're the only other one in the county. There's another one in Bellingham, but so that's kind of what started it. He kind of helped us out.
Yeah, what did he do once he was? What difference did it make? He
knew some stuff we didn't know. So there was issue with air exchanges in the building and some other like building related things that he basically was like, here you go, that's what you should do. Or he just gave us advice, and we took his advice, and then they signed us off on the.
I suppose if he's an HVAC guy, he would know about that air stuff.
Yes, that was the deal. So,
but crazy, if you have the good idea, you have the will to do it, you want to invest, you're farming, you want to produce food, you want to use some of your farm product to make a value-added
product,
as they say. Yet you kind of have to know, and if you don't,
too bad for you.
Yeah,
or you have to be rich, because if you have lots and lots of money, you'd hire a consultant to just go in and do it all for you. But we didn't have that luxury.
So all these rules end up giving the upper hand to the wealthy who decide they want to do hobby stuff.
100%.
Rather than people who actually want to produce food and
and Sean and I are both working full time, raising a family, running a farm. And, trying to open this distillery, and then and learning the, international fire code, because the building inspector doesn't want to deal with it.
Oh, man.
So this was a really crazy journey. It took us 3 years to get through the paperwork. The feds was actually the easiest to get through.
You have to get approved by the
you get approved by the federal government. You get approved by the Washington state government, by the Liquor Control Board, and then you get approved by your county.
What did the feds want to know?
My goodness.
What's their thing?
That's a crazy application process.
Is it because, again, the alcohol stuff?
Yeah. So you're dealing with the TTB, the Tax and Trade Bureau. Used to be the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, same thing. So they get really in your business about making alcohol. And the reason is because it's federally taxed. So we pay a federal excise tax on every gallon we well, I was going to say produce, but it's not. It's every gallon you sell or give away or whatever. So they get in your business pretty deep. Like we had to supply 3 character references of people who weren't related to us. They did a background check. You have to list every speeding ticket, parking fine, any kind of violation you've ever had on your record, and they check it. And it's crazy the amount of paperwork you have to jump through to get approved. And then the actual building site, the site is approved. You got to send in all sorts of. We had to send in a whole property, a whole huge thing about the layout of our property and all that stuff. So,
well, at least all of this time, you said 5 years, gave Sean a chance to get
better at working
at his recipes,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, it was probably very a very fortunate thing that it took us that long, but because it gave him a lot of time to learn stuff.
So yeah, talk about what you guys produce. What was the first thing, and because you have multiple.
So, right, we have 6 products. We have 6 products that we produce now. We started with brandies. Brandy is a fruit, any spirit distilled from fruit. That felt appropriate because we have a berry farm.
Right.
So our first 3 products were, and then we also decided to go with apple brandy since it's such a Washington State product. We really wanted to go like hyper local and be as local as possible with all of our ingredients because we want to support farmers that are like us, right? I mean, big guys, I don't know, big rich guys, they have all sorts of options, but little local folks, it's nice to support them. So we started with an apple brandy. We do a barrel aged apple brandy. We did a blueberry brandy, blueberry infused. And so it's just flavored and sweetened with fruit only.
So it's not like the original alcohol that was distilled.
No.
That was still made from apples.
It was still made from apples, but then we add the blueberries
flavor,
after.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is if you distill straight blueberries, you would make something called an eau de vie, which is a blueberry brandy. And it would take, what did we figure, like 20 pounds of fruit to make 1 bottle of brandy. So your cost of goods on that is so high, you could never sell it. I mean, it'd be stupid expensive. Yeah. So
here's a $300 bottle of
blueberry
brandy.
That's pretty much what it would be. And so we'll see. One day we may make that because we'll make it out of our own fruit, but kind of have to see how that goes first. Yeah. If anybody would even buy it, I don't know. And then our third product that we made was a blueberry pie liqueur. And so that one is sweetened with brown sugar. It's got real blueberries, cinnamon, vanilla bean, all sorts of good stuff. So
weird. You're talking about a drink, but you're making me hungry.
I know, right? It goes together.
It sounds so good. Sounds like dessert in a bottle.
It is dessert in a bottle for sure. So those were our first 3 products, and we started with those and kind of learned the business, learned how to, yet again, we didn't know anything about farming and started farming, and then now we're doing the booze biz and trying to learn that business as well. But, and then about a year after that, we decided to add a couple products because we were getting a lot of people asking for, do you do a gin or do you do a whiskey? And initially we were like, nah, we don't really want to, that's too, I guess, common or too popular. We wanted to do something a little more unique. But then after a while, it's like, well, that is what people drink. So nobody knows what apple brandy is or blueberry. Nobody really knows those products. So let's do it. So then we started making a single malt whiskey. If you were in Scotland, it'd be Scotch, but here you call it American single malt. Yeah. And we did a raspberry infused brandy because we figured we got the blueberry, let's do raspberry. Then you got Whatcom County berries kind of covered. Yeah. And we do a gin, an Old Tom style gin. So,
Old Tom, what does that mean?
So Old Tom is a pre-prohibition recipe. It is actually was way more common than the dry gins before the Prohibition. But what happened was it disappeared. Like the distilleries who were making it in those 14 years, there was no legal alcohol made. Those businesses went out of business, and then when Prohibition was over, the London dry gins started coming in and replacing them. So Old Tom style is less juniper forward. It's not quite as piney and a little sweeter. So, and ours is very, very botanical. We got lots of different botanicals. So it's very, very kind of floral and citrusy.
How do you get going on figuring out how to make something like that?
That is a really good question.
I would have no idea where to start.
Right. Well, I mean, we did a lot of drinking of a lot of different products for a long time going, what does this taste like? Or what is this? And then, I mean, that's really it. You just, kind of do research, Google it. Google's pretty amazing, the stuff you can find on there. So for example, for our gin, we just Googled another gin company that we liked, their Old Tom gin, and snooped around until we kind of found their recipe and started messing around with it. You call your friends who have a good chef's palate too, and that helps. Like, come over and what do you think? This one or this one? Taste it. What do you think? Right. So a lot of that.
And then trial or error.
Trial and error. Try it, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, you're out a bunch of grain bill or whatever your ingredients were.
So how's that been going? What's it been like, and what's it like running the blueberry farm at the same time?
It's it's interesting that the distillery really has become more of Sean's thing as far as the day-to-day operations. And, he quit his job wrenching in 2017 and hasn't had to get his tools back out. So it's going okay. It's going well. It's any new business. You grow it slowly. But I feel like it's starting to pick up, and we're getting our brand out a little bit. People are more and more aware of where I probably shouldn't shirt, and people are like, oh, I know that place. And so that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Where'd the name come from?
Oh gosh. Well, you probably shouldn't try to farm when you don't know what you're doing, and you probably shouldn't quit your job and open a distillery. And I mean, you probably shouldn't have that last drink either, but you generally do. And so, it was kind of an inside joke that then I was like, let's do it. In fact, that was one of the first things we came up with, is we were like, that should be the name of a distillery. That's hilarious. So
and
we did it.
And
we just did it. Yeah.
Probably
shouldn't.
And now probably should. I'm seeing around, or definitely should.
Yeah, definitely
I'm seeing
should.
on that bucket over there.
Well, hand sanitizer.
COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
You guys
in the world of
pivot this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A big pivot this year. We got to learn a whole other industry real quick.
Yeah. How did that go down? I remember I was here.
I know.
I
Isn't that
stopped
crazy?
by and saw the place for the first time. This was like right in the early days of COVID, before things really shut down.
The first week of March, wasn't it, that you were here?
Yeah. What's going to happen? We're not sure. And we're all trying to kind of be careful, but it was before any sort of mask rules or anything.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And then what happened?
Well, so what happened is March 13th, schools were shut down. So I go home. I'm like, what is happening? Right. Like everyone else in the world was, whoa, this is crazy. This is scary. And that night, Sean and I sat down and said, and we were just talking about COVID and pandemic and, kind of sorting through all of that. And he said, oh my God, what happens if homeless people get infected? Like, how would they stay? He just had this random kind of thought.
Right.
And then at the same time, he had been talking to people about, hand sanitizer, the liquid, the spray kind, is made out of ethyl alcohol, which is what we produce. Same thing that you drink, right?
Right.
And so he had kind of been talking to people about that, and we said, let's make it. So he Googled it. How do you make hand sanitizer? And it's pretty simple. It's ethyl alcohol, it's glycerin, and hydrogen peroxide. So
what are the other ingredients other than
that's
alcohol? But glycerin and hydrogen peroxide, what are those for?
So hydrogen peroxide I suppose to kill any bacteria, which I don't know, the alcohol would do that. So I'm not really sure why the hydrogen peroxide. And then the glycerin to make it easier on your skin. So it makes it a little bit thicker so it doesn't evaporate.
Is the hydrogen peroxide something that helps? Because don't they call it denatured alcohol?
No, that's a different thing. So the chemical to denature ethyl alcohol is a whole separate, I don't remember the name of that chemical.
And what does that do? That actually makes it so you can't drink it, right?
Makes it taste super vile and nasty.
That's what denatured.
That's all it means. That's all it is. Just a poison to make it taste gross. So we were like, well, you don't have to have that. It's still the intent of it is to kill bacteria, to kill virus, to, germ things. So you don't really need to denature it. That just makes it so somebody doesn't drink it. So we decided we're like, let's make it and let's donate it to the Lighthouse Mission and, let's get it out to people who need it and whatever. And so we were in the process of figuring out how to do that. And then the following week, the next Monday, we got an email from the TTB, from the federal agency that oversees our operation. And they said, if you have a craft distiller's license, because of COVID-19 and because of the shortage on the market of hand sanitizer, go ahead and make it. And they lifted all the regulations involving the labeling requirements, the pre-approval process. Because normally if you make a new product, it takes 6 months to a year to get the feds to approve it before you can have it on the market. So obviously in a pandemic where there's no hand sanitizer, we need it
now.
So we're like, okay, let's go. Let's do this.
So how much did you make?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I should know that number.
Are you still making it?
No, we're done making it. I think we made probably around 600 gallons.
Wow.
So, and the deal was, we were making it. We were thinking we've got local companies who are going to need it. I was worried about our schools, of course, and so we wanted to make sure it got out to the people who were providing lunches and meeting with families and stuff. But then we also ended up getting a call from Amazon, which that's kind of crazy. And they called and Sean answered his phone because that's what he does, is he answers his phone. And they said, hey, this is so-and-so from Amazon. Are you a distillery? And he said, yeah, we are. They said, are you making hand sanitizer? And Sean said, yep, just sent out a truckload today, which was a complete lie, but he was like, oh, it's Amazon. Well, I'm going to want to impress him.
I love it.
So then we get a call the next morning. We got a call from Amazon from the regional procurement specialist. And she said, I need 500 gallons of hand sanitizer and can I get it in 2 hours? And at that time we had not made a drop yet because this is 3 days into researching it. So anyway, that got us moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is our facility is so small, we couldn't produce it very quickly. So we got them as much as we could get them right away.
Yeah.
And then we had to wait for glycerin to come in and then, all these things that you're waiting on. And, but we ended up providing them with everything they wanted over the course of about 5 weeks. So, and then we were done. Then Sean's like, nope, I don't want to do this again. So it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, a lot of work for hand sanitizer versus like a craft.
Right. Well, that was Sean's thing is he's like, I wish people drank this much whiskey, though you could sell this much whiskey in a couple months, but it burnt him out. And our operation's so small, he had to run the still twice a day, 7 days a week. So he was working 15-hour days, 7 days a week for about 42 days. Wow. So he was ready for a break at the end of that.
I guess.
But we were able to provide, and we provided a lot of local businesses, law enforcement, schools, fire departments. So that was kind of fun. It was cool. Mm-hmm. And we were our label designer who designs all of our labels for our products. She was in lockdown in Italy at the time, and I had been emailing her about a different issue and was like, oh my goodness, we're going to do hand sanitizer. Here's what we're doing with it. And she was like, I love that so much. Please let me design the label for free. And then and I'll get you going. And she did it over a weekend for free for us. And then a local AMS label, AMS Printing in Blaine. They're like, hey, we'll print them for you. They got them done for us super quick and gave us a discount. And it was awesome. People were really, really cool about that.
How about everything else, like the actual business? Excuse me.
Oh, well,
during the pandemic,
it's been weird, right? So the rules change all the time. So every time Inslee gets on the news, we're watching it going, oh God, what's it going to do to us now? Because, so we go from being open to you can't be open to you can do curbside pickup to, so all these different variables. And so it's just been kind of we've just been having to roll with it and figure it out. We started selling on our website, so you can order bottles on our website because we have to do contact free. And so it's just all new and exciting all the time. No.
What about the blueberries? Was that
the blueberries this season was bonkers. It was nuts. It was busier than we've ever been. Like almost a little scary. Like there's a lot of people here right now during a pandemic. Is this okay? But it was really, really busy, and I think because people didn't have anything to do. Everyone I've talked to in the business, every U-Pick in the county was slammed this year. Is kind of word on the street because it's something you could do. It's something that's pretty safe because you're outside and you can be with your whole extended family, and there's not a lot of opportunities to do that. So yeah, it was really busy.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
I'm not complaining at all. No, it was a good problem to have.
So what's next? Are you guys gonna add any more? Are you gonna kind of stay the size you're at?
We're gonna try to keep. Well, so Sean has invested in a larger still, so we'll be able to produce more faster. So what that will do is it'll enable us to increase our footprint if we want to, and I think that's really where we're at. So with the distillery anyway, we're distributing statewide to some degree, or and so we'd just like to move kind of larger, but we're not in any hurry. We're kind of trying to take some breaks and occasionally talk to our children. That seems to be a challenge these days, and so yeah, we're just kind of taking things as they come. No big plans for new products instantly. Sean's been working on a bourbon. But that's really the only thing that may be new in the next year. So,
how's school been since you're still a school teacher?
It's not my favorite. I could say a lot of things that would be very unprofessional, but it's tough. It's super tough.
Yeah.
It's the amount of technology that we've had to learn to get everything online has been insane. And it's so hard to engage with kids through a computer.
Right.
And my heart is broken for so many of my students and their families, and to try to get to try to get online and teach and learn. It's just not ideal. So it's been tough, but it is what it is. I mean, we gotta get through it.
How are your kids doing with it?
My own children, they're good. We have been fortunate enough, Sean's home, so he can help them with the school stuff. And we've been fortunate enough that we had she's like our family now, but one of my employees from several years back, she's a former student. She's nannied for us. So
nice.
We had Karina move in here, and she helps the boys get online, and then she works on her school stuff as well. So we're really blessed that she was able to come help us out and do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really cool. So my boys are okay. They want to go back to school, They're both getting, I don't know, lazy and just want to play video games all day long. But that's probably every 12 and 9-year-old in the world, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Good times. Well, thank you for sharing the story of Probably Shouldn't Distillery.
For sure.
And Breckenridge Blueberries.
For sure. Thank you.
Everything leading up to that.
Yeah.
It's really cool what you guys are doing. And I know it was kind of with a sustainability mindset that you went into all of this, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what can we do to make the most of what we've been given and what we have, the most of our land and the most of our resources. And then how can we make a good life for our family and keep things kind of going?